I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Hey everybody, it's Lauren Kling. Welcome back to another episode of AfterBuzz TV presents Tales from the Loop. This is episode 5, Control. I am here joined by my co-host Kevin Allen. How you doing, Kevin?
I'm great. Thanks for coming back. We've been at this all day. I love it.
I know we've been watching all day. I never in a million years wondered what it would be like to have a job where you get to just talk about TV shows.
Yeah. If only I could go back and tell my parents, you know what? I was right all along.
Yes, I get it.
Television paid off.
Right. So if you are just joining us for the very first time, we are happy to have you. Every one of the 8 episodes of Tales from the Loop, we have an after show for it, and you can find it at AfterBuzzTV.com or search for AfterBuzz TV Tales from the Loop on YouTube. And we have comments that will follow up with you afterwards. I love time travel. I love sci-fi and future retro. I love how East-West Germany-ish and European, I guess Nordic, that kind of feel of the cars and the look of this place. That's why I love it. Kevin, why do you love this show so much?
Well, I'm a big fan of alternate universes. I like seeing different spins on something very familiar, and it's kind of neat to me to wax philosophical about like, okay, so what are all these little changes entail in the large scope, or vice versa? And have to be a bit of a philosophy nut to begin with. So when you get a show that's this heady, and sci-fi often does this, where it makes you really ponder the big questions, it's just a treat for me.
Yeah. So wonderful. All right. So let's get down with the breakdown of this episode called
Hmm.
Control. We've got Ed. We've got Ed, who's married to Kate, their
Hmm.
daughter Beth, who we've seen before, and then their son Danny. So
Yes.
we see Ed trying to fix a machine. He hears birds in a tree, the only tree in the entire field,
Yeah.
and then he looks down and sees a broken egg on the ground, which means something. What does it mean?
I, it was heart wrenching because it's the bird was crying, is what it sounded like to me, over the
Mhm.
loss of its child. And we know that Ed is going through a somewhat similar loss with his own child, Danny, from the second episode. So I, to me, it doesn't really mean anything more other than a staunch reminder to Ed that he's dealing with this heartache. He
Right.
just kind of stared at it, and I assume related very heavily to the bird, and there's nothing he can say or do to the bird to console it, because he knows there's nothing anyone can say or do to him to console him.
Right. He's lost Danny and
Hmm.
he's overprotecting. He's got a daughter who's deaf. So I think Ed is overprotective, trying to fix things. And what's interesting is all the different elements we see of him trying to fix things. For example, the power goes out in their house because the breaker box is going out, and Kate is telling him, "You need to fix it. You need to call Henry." And he's like, "No, no, no, I'm going to do it. I'm going to fix it. I'm the
Hmm.
fixer," uh, which is really interesting. Ed's at work. We see Lucas. Lucas was a couple episodes back. He was the one when May stole the little items to
Yeah.
fix that thermos machine.
Hmm.
So he's the co-worker. And then Ed goes to talk to his boss, Phil. It seemed like a very kind of office or office space moment with this
Yeah.
young guy Phil there, and and the older guy Ed comes in and is trying to say, "I need money," and he can't do it.
I'm sure it was a huge point of pride to not only have to make that request in the first place and admit that there are problems that are beyond his ability at the moment, but Phil is significantly younger than him. Uh, so I'm sure that is just part of what makes it so hard for him to admit that he has a problem by coming to someone with less life experience.
Mhm.
And then when he finally starts to muster up the words after like prepping himself and getting his coffee and uh, taking a moment, the phone interrupts him, and Phil gives him the chance to keep talking, but he just doesn't.
Yeah.
And when Phil finally asks, "Oh, is this important?" and he's, "No, no," just the guy struggled and gave up.
Yeah, it was hard to watch this episode because you feel for Ed and you feel
Mhm.
for him wanting to protect people. And he, says, "I'm a fixer. I can fix these things." And it doesn't always happen. I notice, this is an episode where I just happened to my brain took a break to look elsewhere, and I'm like, the police wagon. It's not, like an American style police car, even though this is supposed to take place in Ohio.
Yes.
Very European, very Nordic. It was like an old Vanagon. We see Russ's car. Grandpa Russ's car was a VW station wagon that my grandpa used to have in orange. So very interesting. So Kate and Ed argue a lot.
Yeah, well, they've been having a lot of problems come up. I think, I mean, before Danny's coma, they were arguing about Danny's future, but Danny's coma and the hospital bills that result, the breakers going out. Now they've got this potential burglar who's been running around the neighborhood, as far as they know. It's just the problems are piling up and
Mhm.
starting to overwhelm them. So yeah, they've got plenty to discuss, because I'm sure it's it's stressing them out more and more as it continues.
Yeah, yeah. Ed goes to work, asks Phil for an advance. As soon as he gets the envelope, he hands the envelope. It was very like a Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, a very cool kind of uh, quick edit right there, where he gives
Hmm.
the envelope to a woman named Patty. And I have to find out her name because more than likely she'll be in some episode later on,
That's a good
maybe.
point.
But basically, she sells Ed this robot that can mimic the human wearing all of this gear, which I found
Yeah.
really interesting.
Oh yeah, I did too. It's the scrapper, and I'll tell you, I've been looking forward to this episode because, aside from the image of the ecosphere with uh, Russ, the old man, and his young boy, the second image that I've been seeing uh, promoting the show, or actually, it's more promoting Simon Solhog's original artwork. Like the
Hmm.
cover photo for his book, Tales from the Loop, is a young child wearing this backpack, raising their hand up, and having this robot do the same thing.
Yeah,
So I'm like, oh, we finally get to see the robot episode, the one that has been the central image for Tales from the Loop for years now.
yeah,
So he buys that robot.
yeah. And it's interesting. We did not see Danny the robot in this episode, but we saw a quick glimpse in the preview, or did we see it in this episode? Uh,
Um,
was did I'm
oh
trying to remember. Is
no,
this the
that
one
was,
where?
you're right. That was Jacob in the body of the Walker robot. He did appear in last episode.
Right.
Yes,
Okay. Yeah.
Sullivan Cole. I completely forgot about that.
Yeah. So basically Ed says, "I'm going to take this robot and I'm going to roam the property and I'm going to protect it." And
Yeah.
so each night he's out there, and didn't you comment with the 2 episodes back when Lauren was on that we haven't seen night shots before in the series?
Well, in that episode that we discussed with Lauren, the characters commented that when they had frozen time, they did it in the daylight, so we weren't seeing a
So
lot
we
of
didn't
night. We
got it,
had
okay.
been seeing nighttime, but not extensively. I mean, the
Uh
show is brought in from all these landscapes, and so it's hard to see the
right.
wide vistas and the big machines at night.
Yeah. So this one we've got Ed outside trying to protect his family. Um Lucas and Ed are talking at the bar. Ed gets mad and said he was watching my daughter, basically you telling Lucas, you don't understand, you're not a family man. um, Ed's scared. And what he is hiding behind his fear is a lot of yelling and screaming at other people. Why
Yes.
didn't you telling Kate, why didn't you protect her? Why weren't
Hmm.
you there to see her? We saw Beth with the kids steal her toy, which comes back later on when she's
Yeah.
walking down the street.
Yeah. You raise a really good point. He takes out his I hate to be so harsh about it, but he takes out his failure to protect his family on everyone around him who opposes his ability to do it. So he really feels it's his duty and his duty solely, and that it bears such a weight that no one else should have to burden it. Or and when he is questioned about his ability to burden it, he kind of snaps.
Yeah. What really turned for me in the episode is when Ed and Beth are in the field and she says, I don't want to see Danny. It's not my brother, just his body.
Yeah.
That later on, we see Jakob outside of her window and she knows it's Danny.
Yeah, that's confirmed now. That she understands, or at least acknowledges, the body switching thing from episode 2.
Right.
We as the audience learn that this potential stalker or burglar is actually Danny in the form of somebody else trying to visit his old home, or at least his sibling.
Right.
So that just brings a whole nother dynamic to this confrontation, or this conflict that Ed is feeling with
Yeah.
the
You had
neighbors.
said
And
you had said previous that you thought because Beth was deaf that she uses sight. She's more acute with her sight. And so she possibly was able to see Danny's behavior and, in the robot, and Jacob's behavior. No, I know I've got that backwards.
so what I said was that she originally probably noticed something was off about Danny when he was actually Danny's body with Jacob's
Yeah.
personality inside.
Yeah. Thank you.
And then later, Jacob's body with Danny's personality inside shows up at their house and does sign language and admits, like, hey, I'm still here. Like, that must have been very telling for her.
Yeah.
So she kind of probably had this inkling, and then it was confirmed for her later in that same episode. And now they've been having full on conversations.
Right. And sadly, Ed kind of devolves through the episode,
Yeah.
just kind of flailing and failing more and more. Ed's at work and every light is lighting up that there's a problem on every robot. He hears a noise outside and takes the robot and almost kills his daughter, who is in the garage trying to get the toy that her brother saved for her. And then, Ed's at home, then he goes to the hospital and he says to his son, I don't know if you can hear me, I fix things. That's what I do, but I can't fix this. Was really touching.
Yeah, this was his growth as a character. He finally acknowledged his hubris and his hamartia, that he has this flaw, that he is beyond him. He admits his faults, and in doing so, also kind of finally opens up to his relationship with Danny, and that he needs to speak to him. Because earlier in the episode, Kate, his wife, said, like, you should be talking to him, and he just couldn't do it. I feel like it's because he couldn't really acknowledge or admit the situation, and now he has admitted what's happening with Danny, and that he has to come to terms with it, and that there's things beyond his ability to repair. Exactly what he verbalized.
Yeah.
It was a big moment of catharsis and growth for him. So yeah, it was an important one. And he sells back Scrapper and uses the money that he should have used the whole time to fix the breaker, and maybe even buy some bolts for his door,
Right. It's funny you say the word repair, and there's the scene where we fade into the broken egg on the ground, and basically time goes backwards. In a figurative sense, the egg reheals, and we're basically repairing what has been broken, so Ed can then move forward, fixing his future. So it's not literally a time travel, but to me it felt very figurative time travel, where he's able to repair himself. And so
Yeah, you're right, because if he sells back the robot, it's him undoing recent events, so to speak, and then going down a different path,
right.
To actually fix the problems. I hadn't picked up on that. That's brilliant.
Yeah, thank you very much. All right.
Yeah.
With that being said, we see Beth dance in her room. Ed and Kate talk in the bedroom, and so we hope that things are improving. We hope that things go well. So that's the breakdown of our show. Now I think it's time
Mhm.
for special segment, and I believe
So
we might.
yeah, I'm happy to. I've got more artwork that is definitely what inspired the show. The first piece that we're going to throw up, you could see the repair vehicle that we've now seen for a couple episodes, with the arm on it,
Mhm.
um, just pulling up at the family home. So this to me is very indicative of Ed and his career. The second one I'm only bringing up because I can't go an episode showing artwork that doesn't have these cooling towers in it. It's been in every episode
Right.
we've done so far, and this is just one I haven't got to share. This was the artwork that basically was the face of the RPG that I had mentioned way back when. It has nothing to do with this episode, but I wanted people to see it. The third piece is what I was referring to earlier. It's a young child with the backpack that controls the arm of the robot. So this is obviously the image that inspired
Yeah.
Nathaniel Hawthorne to write this episode. And if you look in the back, I brought a close-up image as well. You can see the police vehicle.
Mhm.
So the police vehicle that they created for the show is taken straight out of the background of this
Right.
painting, and they did an amazing job uh, bringing that to life. When that thing pulled up, I was like, "Oh, this is definitely a piece of artwork somewhere." I've never seen anything like this before.
Yeah. It's it's beautiful, and it makes me want to go to a museum and just see all of this art. It's incredible.
His work is fantastic. Go online, search for it.
Yeah.
There's so much to comb through.
Right. Now, I mentioned in the last episode that there's a website that I found called
Mhm.
tvtropes.org, and it's kind of been fun trying to figure out what is the term, and the one that I found was declaration of protection.
Okay, I could
It's
see that because when he used the robot as a weapon to break open the barn door and attack what he thought was a burglar, that's when it clicked for me that this episode could be taken as a an allegory for getting a gun to protect your family and it
right.
not going well.
Right. The
Um,
Declaration of Protection is a person, usually the hero, has a motivation built around protecting another person. And then usually or often the protector fails to protect the protectee, resulting in the latter's death. For us, we've got he couldn't protect Danny. He was trying desperately to protect his daughter Beth, and then almost killed her. Couldn't protect his marriage, his job. So yeah, a lot of similarities to this Declaration of Protection.
I'd also like to point out, as you've been doing a really good job about comparing this to other pieces of sci-fi that have kind of the same tropes. This reminded me of the Twilight Zone episode Steel, in which a man poses as a robot in a boxing match, which
Yeah.
then was adapted into Real Steel, the movie with Hugh Jackman, where you have a device that gets a robot to mimic your actions. And so he's teaching his daughter boxing and then teaching her to box with the robot. That's
Right.
straight out of that whole lineage. And then my
It's
girlfriend reminded me, Pacific Rim, kind of similar, using a
yeah.
robot to fight for you.
Right. I found a few things that use Declaration of Protection.
Okay,
Among some of the movies, Iron Man 3,
with
Star
yeah,
Wars, of
robots.
course, Chewie trying to protect. Hunger Games, Katniss to Prim, then to Rue, then to Peeta. TV shows like Buffy, Bones, Blacklist, and then I found some music. There's even some music. Rascal Flatts has a song called I Won't Let Go. And
Huh,
music is very much this kind of declaration of protection. Chris
okay,
Stapleton has a song called Parachute, and the line is, and go ahead, Kevin, sing it with me as I just say it. I'm just
babe.
kidding. Say the word and I'll be there for you. Baby, I will be your parachute. How
Okay.
many times is a song about trying to protect somebody else? The word baby is used so many times as a term of endearment and protection. You're the baby. I am the protector, the mother or the father.
Mm. I don't know.
What time do we start teaching our class at MIT or Yale on
Well,
these kind
I'm
of
still waiting for
philosophical
them to
things?
call. I
Okay.
I know they're delaying because of quarantine, but they'll
Yes.
call.
All right. So any other thoughts before we wrap up the episode?
No, I think we got it all out. I just this series is so fantastic and how it changes its kind of its tone and its message every episode without ever feeling like it's not part of the same world or the same mindset. Just
Yeah.
I love each episode.
Awesome. So, all right. So, here's what the rest of our schedule is like. Tomorrow on Monday, we've got 3 p.m. We're going to do episode 6, 5 p.m. episode 7, and then Tuesday at 4 p.m. These are all Pacific Daylight Time. We have our final episode 8, and we think we might get Lauren to come back for at least one other episode. Is that correct?
She had a great time on our show. So if people want to have her back, then I'll definitely reach out and figure out when she can come back.
Perfect. Let us know on the comments section of our YouTube, on the YouTube videos, and or if you want to contact us on social, Kevin, where you can ask for Lauren to come back. Where can they find you?
Kevin Allen says on Twitter, Kevin Allen Graham on Instagram.
Perfect. And you can find me on Instagram at Lauren Kling. For everybody here at AfterBuzz, well, everybody here in this room and everybody in Kevin's place and back in the control room, somewhere in a strange garage, somewhere in the middle of a town, maybe in Ohio or Canada. I'm Lauren Kling. Thank you for watching. Good night, everybody.
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.